At 5:19 local time, the carrier's surface search picture changes. 3 clean arcs tighten on the scope, then separate. 6 contacts in total, accelerating and moving on to converging bearings. No civilian patterns, no random drift, only clear intent. On the bridge, no one needs to raise their voice. Track 6 classifies surface combatants. The words come calmly and professionally. Displays refresh. Outside, the sea looks almost peaceful, steel gray under a low swell, with nothing dramatic on the surface. But inside the ship, the rhythm shifts by a single degree. Just enough to feel, not enough to see. The carrier stays on course. At this distance, appearances can deceive. The ocean always seems empty right up until it isn't. The contacts close to 20 nautical miles. Their spacing narrows. What first looked loose now resolves into a deliberate formation. 2 ships sit high off the starboard arc, 2 lower to port, and 2 slide in behind the wake. Not a coincidence, not a routine pass. It is geometry shaped by experienced hands. Confirm nationality. A brief pause. Data aligns. Hull forms match stored signatures, masked arrays, distinctive superstructure angles. The answer returns without emotion. Russian Navy, 6 surface combatants. No reaction, no commentary. The bridge takes in the fact and keeps moving. The carrier does not turn away. It does not pick up speed. It does not slow down. 80,000 tons of steel continue on the same heading at the same pace, as though nothing has changed. For the moment, nothing has. Below deck, the Combat Information Center hums with quiet focus. Consoles glow, tracks are refined, numbered, and time-stamped. Every change in bearing is recorded. Every knot gained is noted. No alarms break the air. No aggressive posture is signaled. The ship remains watchful, not provocative. That is how professionals handle moments like this. At 15 nautical miles, the Russian ships complete the curve. The circle is not tight enough to look reckless, but it is precise enough to leave no doubt. Close enough to apply pressure. Distant enough to avoid open provocation. The radio remains silent. No calls, no replies. The silence says more than words would. On the flight deck, aircraft remain chained in place. Deck crews continue their scheduled movements. To an untrained eye, everything looks routine. To those who understand the scene, it is discipline under pressure. Activity without escalation. Closest point of approach trending down. The report is plain, stripped of drama. No adjectives, no urgency, just numbers. The carrier's radar arrays continue their steady sweep, painting the contacts over and over again. Each return is sharp and reliable. There is no confusion about who sees whom. Everyone understands the balance in play. Everyone understands how narrow that margin can be. At 10 nautical miles, the Russian ships match speed almost perfectly. They settle into parallel motion, pacing a platform that outweighs them all combined. It reads less like confrontation and more like a message, a test of composure. On the bridge, the captain watches the water ahead rather than the screens. He has seen this pattern before. Different oceans, different flags, the same calculation. The order comes quietly. Maintain course, log all maneuvers. No special condition is announced, no posture needs to be advertised. Readiness is already understood. Across the water, the low vibration of engines carries on the wind. 6 warships are now visible to the naked eye, gray hulls against a gray sea, holding steady, disciplined lines. Their wakes are clean and controlled. Nothing here is accidental. At 8 nautical miles, the ring tightens once more. This is the stage where misjudgments can happen, where someone says too much, where someone moves too quickly, where history can shift because of one small human error. But none of that happens. Inside the carrier, systems continue tracking. People continue breathing. The ship moves forward as if the circle around it changes nothing. 6 Russian warships, 1 American aircraft carrier. No exchange of fire, no words over the radio, and no sign of hesitation from either side. At 7 nautical miles, the geometry settles into place. The 6 Russian warships hold position with mechanical precision. 2 forward off the carrier's starboard bow, 2 offset to port, 2 trailing just beyond the wake, riding the disturbed water where radar returns can blur, and distance becomes harder to judge. This is not a display meant for cameras. It is a formation built for professionals who know exactly what they are looking at. On the bridge, the spacing is understood immediately. They're holding station. The report stays calm and purely observational, with no speculation attached. Speed readings align closely with the carrier's own. The Russian ships are not pursuing, they are pacing. The carrier does not answer with a maneuver of its own. No counter-turn, no widening arc, no attempt to disrupt the pattern. 80,000 tons of steel continue on the same heading, steady and unreadable, forcing the encirclement to adjust around it instead of the reverse. That matters. An encirclement only works if the center reacts. At 6 nautical miles, the Russian ships begin slight course corrections, careful rudder inputs that sharpen the angles without bringing them dangerously close. Every adjustment is logged. Bearings update, tracks settle. The circle seems to breathe, expanding and tightening by fractions of a mile. There is no immediate collision risk at this distance. No direct threat is signaled. The pressure comes from proximity alone. On the flight deck, nothing changes. Aircraft remain secured, elevators stay in place. Crew movement continues on schedule, visible through optics from every ship around them. The message from the carrier is unmistakable. Calm, control. No overreaction. The message is quiet but impossible to miss. Routine hasn't been broken. Below decks, sensors stay passive. No fire control radars flare to life. No targeting solutions are formed. The carrier's systems observe without interfering, record without provoking. The Russian ships mirror that behavior. Their radars remain controlled. No aggressive signals. No sudden sweeps that might cross unseen boundaries. Restraint meets restraint. Tension held in a careful balance. At 5 nautical miles, one of the trailing ships inches closer to the carrier's wake. It rides the disturbed water on purpose, testing how much turbulence it can handle without losing position. The shift is picked up immediately. Track 5, adjusting aft position. Acknowledged. Logged. No reaction beyond that. The carrier doesn't change speed to complicate the move. It allows the test to play out. Confidence carries weight, and here it's measured in tens of thousands of tons. From the bridge wing, the gray hulls are now clearly visible. Numbers are still hard to read, but the silhouettes are sharp. Movement is noticeable on the Russian decks. Sailors on watch. Binoculars raised. Cameras likely running. Both sides are watching each other up close, without pretending otherwise. Still, the radios remain silent. That silence becomes its own form of communication. At 4 nautical miles, the circle tightens again. The ships are now well within visual comfort distance, close enough to feel present, but not close enough to signal aggression. It's a precise balance, refined over years of encounters like this. Inside the carrier, no one leans closer to their screens. Voices don't rise. No one narrates the moment. Training holds. Professional distance stays intact, even as the physical distance shrinks. CPA holding. Closest point stabilized. That, too, is deliberate. The Russian ships aren't trying to trigger a reaction through risk. They're testing persistence. It doesn't work. The carrier continues carving a steady path through the water, its wake straight and unbroken. Every mile without deviation reinforces the same idea. You can surround us, but you don't control our course. At 3 nautical miles, the formation locks in completely. 6 warships, evenly spaced, moving at match speed, forming near-perfect geometry. From the outside, it might look like a standoff. From inside, it's something else entirely, a waiting game. And waiting favors the side that doesn't need to rush. No alarms sound, no orders escalate, no systems shift into a more aggressive posture. The moment hangs there, heavy and unresolved, balanced entirely on discipline on both sides. The sea stays calm. The ships remain close. The silence continues. Deep inside the carrier, there's no view of the horizon, and none is needed. The Combat Information Center runs with a steady, controlled energy. Screens glow, data flows, voices stay short and precise. Every contact outside is already represented here, reduced to symbols and numbers that tell the story more clearly than eyesight ever could. 6 surface tracks stable, correlated, time-stamped, nothing flashes red, nothing demands urgency, and that's exactly the point. Maintain passive posture. The instruction moves through the space effortlessly. Sensors keep listening, not broadcasting. Radars observe, not challenge. Every system performs exactly as intended. No more, no less. This isn't hesitation, it's control. The carrier's defenses are layered, redundant, and fully ready, but none of it is put on display. Fire control systems remain silent. Weapons stay still. Readiness here is internal, built from procedures already completed and training that has become instinct. In the CIC, no one speculates about intent. Intent doesn't matter. Behavior does. And behavior is being tracked in detail. Every bearing shift, every speed adjustment, every effort to maintain position. Patterns begin to form quietly, piece by piece. Above, on the bridge, the captain stands with his hands resting lightly on the chart table. His focus is forward, not on the ships closing in around him. He doesn't need to watch them. The ship is watching for him. Reports arrive steadily. Track 2, holding speed. Track 4, maintaining parallel course. No active emissions detected. Each update is acknowledged with a nod or a single word. No extra commentary is needed. Everyone understands the situation and, more importantly, the process. This is where experience shows. A less disciplined crew might feel the urge to react, to signal strength with movement, to break the formation, to force clarity. But clarity isn't always an advantage. Sometimes it benefits the side that's comfortable operating inside uncertainty. The carrier doesn't rush to resolve the moment. It lets the moment unfold on its own. Elsewhere below decks, the shift is felt even without being seen. Engineering holds steady. Reactor output remains unchanged. Air operations stay paused, not out of necessity, but because there's no reason to alter the plan. Normal routine becomes a tool. Outside, the Russian ships are watching for any sign, a speed change, a course adjustment, a sudden launch, a spike in radar activity. They see none of it. The carrier offers nothing to interpret, nothing to misread. The silence is deliberate. In the CIC, one operator brings up historical overlays comparing this formation to past encounters. It's familiar, though never identical. No two situations ever are. Still, one principle holds. The side that controls the tempo controls the outcome. And right now, the tempo belongs to the ship at the center of the circle. Minutes pass, then more. The kind of minutes that stretch. Not because something happens, but because nothing does. The pressure outside builds as the lack of response forces a decision. Hold the formation indefinitely or change something. Inside the carrier, no one rushes that choice. The captain finally speaks quietly, almost casually. Let them work around us. That's it. The order doesn't change anything. It confirms what the ship has been doing all along. Moving forward, steady and unhurried, the carrier's size, its predictability, its refusal to be shaped by the encirclement becomes the key factor. Power here isn't loud, it's patient. In the CIC, logging continues. On the bridge, eyes stay forward. The ship holds its course. Outside, 6 warships maintain their ring. Engines steady, crews alert. All attention fixed on a carrier that refuses to acknowledge the pressure being applied. Inside, there's no sense of relief. No one lets their guard down. Focus stays sharp because everyone understands the same reality. When nothing happens in moments like this, it's often because both sides are waiting for the other to make the first move. And the carrier isn't in a hurry. The first shift is almost invisible. One of the ships on the port side drifts slightly wider, a fraction of rudder, a small drop in speed. On its own, it means very little. In context, it means everything. Inside the CIC, it's caught immediately. Track 3 deviating left, speed -1. Acknowledged. Logged. No response. The carrier continues straight ahead, unaffected, forcing the geometry to stretch. A circle only works if every point maintains it. One small deviation adds tension to the entire shape. The other ships adjust. One tightens its position. Another eases back to maintain spacing. The formation flexes, then settles again. But something has changed. What was once perfectly synchronized now requires effort, and that effort is noticeable. On the bridge, the captain doesn't move. His focus remains on the water ahead as the bow cuts forward, steady and clean. He understands what the shift means. So does everyone else. Pressure isn't unlimited. Applying it takes effort. Holding it takes even more. Another minute passes. Then something subtle happens on the carrier. Not a maneuver, not a signal. Just a slight shift in posture that only trained eyes would recognize. A sensor adjusts its angle. A readiness state updates quietly in the background. Nothing obvious from the outside, nothing dramatic. But the message is there. We're aware, we're steady, and we're not reacting on impulse. The Russian ships respond to it. The portside ship that drifted wide corrects slightly, then hesitates as if reconsidering. The trailing ship riding the wake eases off, choosing smoother water over proximity. The pair on the starboard side holds position, but their spacing widens just enough to break the symmetry. The circle still exists, it just isn't tight anymore. No radio calls follow, no warnings, no announcements. The turning point comes quietly, without any signal to mark it. It happens because maintaining the encirclement now demands more coordination than it's worth. The carrier never forced this moment, it waited for it. Inside the CIC, tracking continues without commentary. Bearings widen gradually. Closest points increase by small margins. Numbers stay neutral. They don't exaggerate. Encirclement loosening. The observation is noted in a calm tone. On the bridge, there's no reaction, nothing to celebrate. This isn't a win, it's a shift. Outside, the ships adjust again. One moves into a parallel course. Another reduces speed slightly to avoid overlapping wakes. The formation transitions from a closed ring into a loose arc. Still present, still watching, but no longer enclosing. The difference is clear. The carrier continues on the same heading, at the same speed, following the exact path it held from the beginning. It doesn't take advantage of the change, it doesn't accelerate, it doesn't turn. It simply allows the space to open on its own. That restraint carries meaning. Now the decision shifts to the other side. Tighten the formation again and commit more effort, or accept the widening distance and change posture. The carrier gives no hint which outcome it expects. More minutes pass, the gap holds, then it grows. One by one, the ships settle into parallel movement. No longer angled inward, no longer cutting off paths, close enough to observe but far enough to disengage whenever they choose. The phase of pressure ends the same way it began, without a single word spoken. On the bridge, the captain finally glances toward the contacts, just for a moment, just enough to confirm what the data has already shown. "Continue transit," he says quietly. That's all. No statements, no closing words. The ship simply does what it came to do, move forward. For a while, the Russian ships remain nearby, no longer forming a barrier, more like shadows keeping pace. Then, gradually, their courses begin to drift apart. First slightly, then more noticeably. The structure that once defined the encounter dissolves back into open water. There are no headlines here, no dramatic visuals, no single moment to replay. But every Navy paying attention understands exactly what just unfolded. The turning point didn't come from force, it didn't come from speed. It came from patience, and from refusing to be shaped by external pressure. The sea opens again, the carrier keeps moving, and the moment fades, leaving behind nothing but lines on a chart and lessons that will last far longer than the wake on the water. By the time the distance stretches beyond 10 nautical miles, the encounter is already over. No signal marks its end, no radio call confirms disengagement. The Russian ships simply fall out of alignment one by one until the geometry that once held everything together no longer exists. What remains is simple: parallel courses and widening space. Observation without pressure. The carrier doesn't acknowledge the shift. It continues on the same heading, the same speed, its wake stretching clean and uninterrupted behind it. From the bridge, the horizon looks exactly as it did before the first contact appeared. Calm, empty, almost ordinary. Inside, systems begin to step down gradually, not out of relief, but because procedure allows it. Logs are completed, timestamps verified. Every movement on both sides is recorded and preserved for later analysis, stripped of emotion and reduced to facts. That's how encounters like this really end. Not with a declaration, but with documentation. The ships remain visible for a time, faint shapes against the water. Still close enough to observe, but no longer close enough to influence anything. One adjusts course outward. Another reduces speed. The last trailing hull slowly disappears into the distance, its wake blending back into the same gray sea. On the carrier, there's no celebration, no visible release of tension. This wasn't something to celebrate. It was a test. And tests are measured by results, not reactions. What stands out most isn't what happened during the encirclement. It's what didn't happen afterward. There's no pursuit, no display of dominance, no public message broadcast to make a point. The carrier doesn't linger, it doesn't turn back. It simply continues forward, mission intact, posture unchanged. That restraint is the real message. At sea, escalation is always an option. Speed can increase, radars can light up, aircraft can be launched. Every Navy involved knows exactly how to take the next step. The real discipline lies in choosing not to. The Russian ships applied pressure through proximity, positioning, and silence. The carrier absorbed that pressure without changing course, speed, or intent. When maintaining the encirclement became more demanding than effective, it unraveled on its own. No shots, no warnings, no rules broken. And still, the outcome is clear. The carrier never gave up control of its movement. It never allowed the situation to dictate its behavior. Instead, it forced everything around it to adapt. That's why this moment matters beyond the water where it happened. Every Navy understands the equation. Power isn't just about weapons or numbers, it's about control, of tempo, of decisions, of when and how a situation changes. From the outside, it may seem uneventful. 6 warships surround a carrier, and then they don't. No explosions, no alarms, no dramatic turn. But for those who understand, the lesson is obvious. The most effective response was silence. The strongest move was staying the course. The decisive factor was patience. As the last ship disappears beyond visual range, life aboard the carrier continues without interruption. Watch rotations proceed. Engineering holds steady output. Navigation remains routine. There's no ceremony to mark what just happened. There doesn't need to be. At sea, moments like this aren't about putting on a show. They're about maintaining freedom of movement without crossing lines that don't need to be crossed. This one ended the way disciplined encounters usually do. Not with force, but with understanding. Understanding of limits, understanding of capability, understanding of who held steady and who adjusted. The ocean closes behind the carrier. The tracks fade. The water smooths out again. But for those who were watching, from both sides, the message stays clear. Sometimes the most powerful action isn't what a Navy chooses to do. It's what it chooses not to do.